Hi, it's Jill Tisbury again at Fired Glass, and welcome to our Glass Birdies video. I thought I'd do this because I had a mess around in the studio creating some fantasy little birds, and they've been really popular. So I put a post on social media, and it's gone mad. So I had a lot of questions, so I thought, well, better do a video, and then people can see how we make them. So these are the little jobbies here. You can do what you want with them, really. We stand them in these little bits of wood, so they're available from that very famous huge online retailer in different sizes. I've got little bits coming off it there. These are the tiny sort of slices, which are ideal for one bird, really. Slightly bigger slices, and you can put two birds in there. So as you can probably see from what we've got here, there's all sorts of options. This is the one with one bird in it. But really, you know, your imagination is the limit as to what you can do. So we're going to talk about how we put them in the little bits of wood later on. I've got a little, what are they called, a flock, a little flock or a menagerie really, of birds here. I just wanted to talk about some of the things that you need to think about when you do them. In a second we're going to talk about these fantasy birds, but I'll talk about the puffins. You see, I nearly said penguin then, because the director and cameraman has been calling these penguins all morning, and they're not penguins, they're little puffins. So you need to get yourself or create yourself a little template. So that's what I've done here. All I really did was find the outline of a puffin and just made sure I've got the right outline. So that, let's just move these out of your way so you can see clearly what I'm doing, and then we'll talk about these little chaps in a minute. This thing here, there we go, sort those out, is the body. So you need to cut that out in black. Now, these are the only ones, the puffins are the only ones that I would suggest that you use opal glass for. The rest of them, you can use whatever glass you've got, but opal glass works so much better than just transparent glass painted or something like that. So we cut out the body, and whatever size you like as well. So I've done some small ones, and I've done some larger ones like this. So that's cut out in black. And then you need his white body. You know, the breast of the puffin is snowy white. So we've got some white. Now, it depends where you get your glass from, but in the UK, quite often get glass from Warm Glass, and they have some variety packs or some offcut packs, and the white offcut pack is perfect for this, along with the black offcut pack. So you'll find there's pieces plenty big enough to be able to cut out the body and the head, and that's it. That's all you need to cut out. The next thing you'll want to do, I'm going to show you how to make shards in a minute, but these are just orange shards. They're actually tangerine. So I think this is dense white, this is black, this is tangerine. And then what makes a puffin look like a puffin is the eyeliner, really. So he's got this little black flash of eyeliner, and I did that with enamel paint. So it doesn't matter what enamel paint you've got. I use Dove because I do a lot of painting with enamels, as you probably know from my other videos. And it's really quite a dense colour. But you want a nice thick black, a thin brush, and just do a little sort of slash shape to actually go down. If you look at a picture of a puffin, it's really dominant on there. And then you want red. So underneath that, hopefully you can see that, it's got a little red outline to the black eye. So I'll just move that to the camera so the camera can see that. And then on top of that, I've put a black bead. So that's all you need. Black bead, black glass, white glass, tangerine glass. Lastly, tiny little bit of yellow stringer on there, and that's the little stripe on his beak. And you have a puffin. So those are ready for the kiln. Two little babies and their mum. So I'm going to pop these over here out of my way, because they're very easy to make. It didn't take you very long. It's the cutting out. Oh, I should say about the cutting out, really. Let's get this one back. So the birds that we're going to talk about in a minute, really easy to cut out because you can do those by hand. If I turn this over, you can probably see better. These lines here are really quite straightforward. You can do all that by hand, but this bit for a puffin, they've really got quite sort of slender necks when you look at them closely. So you will need a ring saw to be able to cut that long shape there. You could do it, file it by hand. It's going to be there forever, like Shawshank Redemption, wouldn't it, with a little tiny file. But yeah, you probably want a ring saw for something like that. There you go. There's your puffins. So, fantasy birds then. Let's have a look at this. So, the fantasy bird is really very straightforward. You've got a little S-shaped curve there and a little curve at the bottom. So, to be honest, you don't need a grinder. If you can cut, and it's, you know, it's good practice actually for cutting. If you can cut with a cutter by hand, then you should find that these are easy to do. So all I've done is got my glass, and this is Tector, so we'll talk about the glass that we use after I've talked about cutting. This is just clear Tector. We've gone round it with a Sharpie, so I've got my outline there, and then straightforward, a little S-shaped cut there, little curve cut there, job's done. So you should have, when you finish that, a cutout ready to go. Okay, let's just put this to one side. So I want to talk about how you actually get this together, because a lot of people have asked these questions. So you've probably seen, if you have a look at the selection that we fired, you can see there's all sorts of options in the selection that we've already got, our little flock, or what they call murmuration, aren't they? Murmuration. I've got some samples here that I've actually just made in preparation for this. So I said that your imagination is your limit. This one, sorry, I've only just done this, so there's bits falling off it. So the, what's it called? I think it's Curious Glass, the packs that you can get. You can again get a variety offcut of Curious Glass, and it's got some stray bit on there. Let's get rid of that. It's this kind of thing. This is absolutely beautiful glass. So if you can bring yourself to actually use it, I've got a sheet of this and I cut a little sliver off the end. I absolutely love it. And I'm making some shards out of this for one of the birds that we're going to do in a second. But Curious Glass is lovely, because when you look at it, you can see on, well actually let's look at this one, because this is a really good example. On one side, it's where they've ladles of glass onto a big steel bed, put it through a roller, and it's like making marbled icing. So choose very carefully when you cut out of this which side you want to use, because you can see this side is way more beautiful than that side, but then even that side's very good. So Curious Glass is a good option for making these little birdies. So we've got one here. So obviously the Curious Glass that we're using here is an opal. You can get transparent with little bits of transparent colour in it anyway. But the idea is that you want to have these standing up. So we want to glue in this piece of rod. So this is a lampwork mandrel. So what I mean by that is when we do lamp working, there we go, it's one of my little fishes that I did with lamp working. So we dip these in bead release, and then we can use them in a torch flame. And a torch flame can be anywhere between 1200 and 1500 degrees centigrade. So you want something that's not going to melt. So you need stainless steel. So whenever you use metal in a kiln, you ideally want something that is going to be a higher melting point than the glass that you use. So these are mandrels. I get mine from Tufnell Glass here in the UK. So it's tufnellglass.com. These are what I buy, a pack of these for actually doing my lamp working. but they're ideal for legs for these birds. So you want a good pair of snippers, you know, the plier snippers, and just chop them. Where's my bits? Here we go. Chop them into lengths. So I do different lengths because some of the birds I want to be shorter than the others, especially where you're going to put two birds in one, like that one, where you're going to put two birds in one piece of wood. You don't want them the same height. You want to be able to see the bird behind. So lots of different heights so that you've got variety. So just snip those with snippers and you're good to go. So when we use these need to be sandwiched between two pieces of glass. Now you can get them back to being, well, not quite shiny unless you really polish them, but if you get a Brillo or a bit of steel wool, once they've fired, you can get them back to being shiny, but they look fine. Just Brillo or a bit of steel wool, once they've fired, you can get them back to being shiny, but they look fine. Just, you know, they go slightly black. So ideally, if you're using something like opal glass, like this one, let's have a look at this. This is all glued in, that we've done it. We finished this morning. So you can see I've cut the body of the bird out. I've also cut a wing out, so I've got a little template for a wing there. So on this one, the wing is just white glass, and we've used some shards to decorate it, and glued this in between, so you don't see the steel mandrel. Fine. So that one's good to go. So let's put that to one side. This one, I have used a transparent curious glass, but I've used it so that the pattern hides the steel rod, because that little black line that's in there allows them, I'm not going to lift this up because this is still a bit wet from this morning, so that hides the steel rod. So you can use an opaque base and you can use a transparent for the wing. So these are good to go as well. Let's pop him over there. I'm going to have a right little menagerie on when I'm finished. Same with this one. So this is, you quite often get this in the green packs. You get this confetti glass, which has also got the red dots in it. And I've chosen, again, a kind of semi-transparent base, but it hides this rod nicely, and I've just put some shards on. So I've taken the fact that he's got red dots on his wings and I've put him some red shards on there. So again, it really is down to your imagination. And I have to say, it's like going to sleep making these, because you just drift off in a sort of sea of abstract imagination. So this one then, this is a bit different. Started life like this. So he's an opal base and he's transparent. Now you see what I mean by that rod. I don't really want to see that rod. So what I've done here is I've chosen some frit, and it's opal frit. So this was pink. There we go. Pink frit on there. I put a bead on for the eye. I put a little snippet of glass on for the beak. And again, I've got something completely different. So instead of having shards on his wings, I've just simply got some frit. Now, I'm going to tack fuse all of these. So it's a standard tack fuse, whatever tack you use. If you did a full fuse, kind of push them out of shape. So I don't really want that. I want to have all this lovely texture that's on them. So we're going to do a tack fuse. So he's good. So let's make his brother. So I mentioned about shards. So these are my pink shards. Let's have a little look at what we've got here. And I've done different sizes on these, and that's from this glass here. So I'm sure you've made shards before, but for those who haven't, just pop this back in here for a second. I'm going to show you. So if you've got one of these empty bottles from your glass supplier, this is a Bullseye 2.5 kilogram bottle, and you need some mosaic nippers. So ideally you want wheels uppermost. Take your bit of glass, and ideally, if this is an oblong piece of glass, you're just going to snip the corners off, because you don't really want that right angled corner, and that snipped corner you're just going to full fuse it into a bead. So perfect. And then when you get an edge like this, perfect, you're going to pop that in there and just squeeze. Okay, so you want this at an angle, and the bigger chunks you want, the more you can see. If you look at where I've got my mosaic nippers there, so I'm cutting off a big old chunk of that. If I do that, I'm going to get a nice tiny little shard. So these shards, we have boxes of them, so when people come on our workshops, they've got all sorts of colours, and they can do flowers with them on their projects. They can make wreaths with them, or they can make little birds. There we go. So job done, and we've now got a little selection of shards that we're going to use. So I'm just going to get rid of these little bits on here because I don't want to get those in my hands. So this is, I've talked about this before, but it's really useful. This is an old kimchi pot, and that's my meadow mix. So meadow mix is what we use to create all sorts of meadow flowers on all sorts of projects. And little shards like this, you can see these here. Normally, you probably brush those into the bin, but over time, if you brush them into your little meadow mix bin, you end up with some meadow mix. So it's just multicoloured frit really altogether. So let's pop that over there. But it helps you tidy up and it's not an issue. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's have a look at my little birdie. So we did the same thing that I've just done with that. I did it with the tangerine glass, and I've got tangerine glued on there. I glued it on earlier on for his beak, and black bead for the eye. You don't have to use a black bead. I've got another one here that I'm going to do in a second, and you can see this bead was well, this bead was actually from a piece that got broken, because I chop up all my broken pieces and then full fuse them into beads. If you want to know about beads, we'll have another video, so the link's coming up, and that talks to you about making beads out of all sorts of stuff. So there you go. So let's put them to one side because we're going to do this one. So you want some glue, and I've got to think about what I'm doing with him. So I'm aiming to cover up this little area here that's got my mandrel in it. So a little bit of glue on here. I think we'll give him some tail feathers, and at the moment I'm really into the beads, the birds having a little cap or having a little tuft on there. I've done a few little tufts, so I think we'll have this one with a little cap. So I'm going to do that first. So this is, what is this? 0301, and it's pink opal. So we're just going to pick up the bird, and I'm being a little bit lazy, but it's easier to do it like this. So you've got your tweezers and shovel. Hold it over the little pot. I've put some glue on there. It's like using glitter, isn't it? And we'll put him a little cap on there. There we go. So immediately he's got some pink tufty cap on top of his head, which is fine. Pop him down there for a minute. You can just push it to where the glue is. Let's get rid of that. And then we're going to give him some nice feathers. So again, this is the Curious glass, so you can see there's all sorts of colours. So turn it around so that you find the bit that you like the look of, and also find the shape that you like the look of. You can see some of them are very different, so that's quite light compared to this. So we quite like that. So we want these bits to cover up where our mandrel is, and these are just like, you know, the big old flight feathers that they have that you can put on there. So maybe the lighter bit goes to the top, and then maybe he has a little bit of frit on his wing as well. So I just put a little bit here. So you can mix and match, you can do what you want, but I'm using opal frit because I want it to cover up. If you wanted to use something like sunset coral, Oh, he's really posh, isn't he? He's going to get some sunset coral on him. So I'm going to actually give him a little sunset coral breast there. Let's move the glue. So this is transparent. And again, I'm just going to hold this over my pot, just so that I don't spill it everywhere. He's going to be quite nice and colourful. And this is the thing, you know, we don't actually care what we put on here as long as we like the look of it. So there we are. Just make sure that's all on there. So I quite like that, and I think he needs some tail feathers now because he's very posh. Shift that, get rid of this and that one. So that's our little pink job done. So let's see what I've got in here that looks nice. So we want a nice long one, I think. So think about the shape of them. You can see the shape that goes down here. That fits really nicely on here. So you want these to be maybe a bit slender for his tail. So that can go on there. And how long did that take me? Not very long. Probably about 5 minutes. Yeah. So there you go. There's my pink birdie. So put him over this side. Over here. There we go. There's a pink birdie done. So this next one is a blue base that we've got, but I haven't cut out a wing for this, so I have got a bead, so we'll glue that on there. So that's his beak's already glued on there. So we'll glue that on there because that's for his eye. And then this bit, get rid of these shards over here. This bit is going to be where his mandrel's going to go. So we'll just push that in there for now. If you want to, while you're doing this, you could just get another piece of glass just under there just to hold that so it doesn't lift up. So I've glued it there for now. And what I'm going to do with this one, I don't have a piece of glass to go on there that would cover it. You don't have to do that. You can do this. So we've got some blue shards here. So I've got a mixture of opal and a mixture of transparent shards. And I am going to give him a nice blue wing. So we'll have a little bit of glue, just stick that on the side there so I can just dip these into it so it's easier. And you can just put, I think I might go with this turquoise for all of it, you just put these shards in place. Now actually that's enough. It's not enough for his wing, but it's enough to hold your mandrel in place. So you should actually then find, once you've got that in there, that you can do what you want. So these can overhang slightly if you want to. That's an ideal piece. Oh, look at that. It's actually got some nice colour underneath. So that's an ideal piece for his tail. So I'm just going to move that and separate that. Actually, I'm going to turn that round because I like the point better like that. And I think he's perhaps got slightly different flight feathers at the front of that. See, I make this up as I'm going along because it's the best way. There we are. Job done. Again, if you feel he's, you know, not bright enough, you can add some extra frit on there. I'm probably going to leave it because I am going to give him a tuft on his head. So he's got a little, oh, I'm going to give him 2 bits. Here we are. So he's got 2 bits of tuft. Doesn't take very much, and all they are shards of glass. But he looks cool, doesn't he? Yep, happy with him. So he can go over to the kiln. We'll move that there and we'll put it in the kiln later. So there is actually a wing that's cut out, so I could use this on here, but I'm not going to. I'm actually going to do this from scratch. So you remember I said that you know, they're very easy to cut out, which is what I did earlier with this. There's nothing on there at the moment, so I can choose which way I'm going to go. But if you've got a lot of clear scrap glass, and I see a lot of posts on social media saying, what can I do with my scrap? Anybody want this clear scrap? This is the way to go. Cut them out. Decide what you're going to do with the eye. So I have chosen a bead that, well, it's like a weird green bead with a stripe in it, so it looks like he's got an iris in there. Now I was going to put this little shard on for his beak, but I actually think he's going to end up with a pink beak, so let's do that. I think I'm going to sneeze as well, hang on. Maybe not. Maybe I'm allergic to birds. There we are. Let's put him a pink beak on, because we're going to make this blue and we're going to use some Marini. Oh yeah, that looks good. He's going to be well colourful. So we want a mandrel. So let's just stick our mandrel in there. I'm going to put this to support that while I put the other bits on. It's quite a long mandrel, so he's probably going to be up at the back. And with this, I'm going to use blue shard. So I'm going to get quite a few out here. And again, I'm going to use my blue shards to cover my mandrel, and I'm going to give him some little tail feathers. And then, so I'm putting a fair amount of glue over the top of this because I want this to dry in place to help me out when I carry it to the kiln. So opal glass, going to go over for his wing. So let's find some little opal colours. There we go. And he's got quite a big tail going on there, I think. And we will have some darker blue at the back. Quite like this. I think this is peacock. Might be peacock blue. And you see I've tipped that so it just rests on there. Doesn't matter that it's doing that, because it's going to give us a little bit of texture. And if you want to, you could even go over the top. Now this is 2mm glass, so because it's quite thin, it's quite good. So I'm going to layer that over there. So he's actually got a real multi-dimensional look to him. Okay, now that is pretty cool because, whoop, dropping things. This is, what is this? This is our Peacock Blend Marini. So I'm just going to steal some. Don't tell John, but I'm stealing them out of the shop. So you can find this on our website if you'd like some of this. Some of these are a little bit thick, so I'm just going to chop them down ever so slightly because I don't want them too thick for this. Oh, takes a bit. Let's move that over there for a minute. So this has got a beautiful pattern in it. I'm not sure. Let me see if you can get that on camera with the light going through it. You probably see that colour. There you go. And this is going on here. So lots of different parts of the pull in this mix. So some of them are really, you know, where the colour is actually faded. When I say faded, as we pull a Marini pull and the colour gets pulled down through the pot, you get different types of pattern. Okay, so last little bits going in to finish this off. Perhaps I should say at this point, we're just in the middle of August at the moment, and in 2 weeks' time we're taking part in something called Northants and Rutland Open Studio, and we've got some little taster workshops, and one of the taster workshops is how you make these little things. So you can always go to NROS, www.nros.co.uk, links up here, so you can have a look at that and see what workshops we've got on offer, but one of them is glass birdies, so you could come in and learn how to do this. So he's finished. So I chose this part of my peacock blend for the top and this part for the bottom, and I think he looks really cute. I quite like him, so I can't wait to see him come out of the kiln. So that's it, that's my birdie made. He needs to be fired, he's going to be tack fused. The thing I did say I would talk to you about is the wooden block. So once you get hold of these from wherever you're going to get them, where's my mandrels? You need to chop your mandrel up, and you need a drill bit. These are tiny little drill bits. This is a 1.2mm mandrel. It's probably something like 18 gauge wire if you're using wire, but you need stainless steel. And you can see we measured these with a vernier gauge, so I know that's a 1.2mm drill, but whenever you buy a mandrel, you buy it in a particular size. So stick that in your Dremel, drill that in there, and then your whatever it is that you've made, whether it's a puffin or one of these, will go in there. You'll find it's a tight fit, and it needs to be a tight fit. I don't glue them in because I need to be able to take them out and flat pack them if I post them off to people if they buy them, and obviously if they're buying something that they then maybe want to pack away or send to a friend, they want to be able to flat pack them as well. The only other thing is this is finishing wax, so I'll just get a little bit of tissue, wipe that over there with finishing wax, and it just gives it a nice little finish really. And that's it. So those are our glass birdies. I expect to see lots of posts now with all your little glass birdies that you've done. Tag fired glass in it, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and to like.